Is the Marvel shaping up to be a disaster for Marvel Studios? We're getting reports that the box office pre-sales are epically bad, and you have to start wondering why this is happening. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about this potential disaster, what I think might be going on, and how Marvel can hopefully right the ship. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. Also, check out that merch shelf. It really does help the channel. Well, as many of you know, Marvel Studios is pretty much known for dominating the box office, but in the last year or two, they have seen their shares of bombs. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and the Eternals both epically underdelivered, and that billion-dollar mark is no longer commonplace for Marvel as it was just a few years ago. Recent box office tracking for the Marvels has been, well, pretty overwhelmingly disappointing, and the latest updates seem to indicate that the cosmic MCU adventure could even perform worse than expected, which is saying something. Now, some analysts are stating that the film should land somewhere between $55 and $75 million domestically for the opening weekend. But now we are getting reports that that could be as low as $45 million, and that the Marvels, as of right now, has reportedly the weakest of any MCU movie in the post-COVID era, suggesting the film could have a ton of problems. This doesn't necessarily mean the film itself will be a disaster. Studio tentpoles often do better than predicted, and quite honestly, a series of very positive reviews, as well as some of the social media hype surrounding some of the cameos, well, that could drive fans back into the theaters, but often that opening weekend really does give us an idea of what's going on and where it's going. People are suggesting this film could actually land at about the Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania level in the mid-400s, which wouldn't even get them out of the red ink for this project, and that's pretty scary for a Marvel Studios movie. Now, the big question is, why is this happening? And there is a lot of good reasons. I think a lot of people want to chalk it up to toxic misogyny, and I do think that plays an element in the problem, but quite honestly, I have a lot of faith in fans and the people that like this content, and although that element does exist, I do not think it's big enough to derail the overall film. But what could be derailing it? Well, first and foremost, I think there has not been enough build-up with Carol Danvers to make fans excited to see her come back. The first movie did $1 billion, but she was kind of underutilized in Endgame, and we really haven't seen her since. This makes fans disconnected from this character, something the MCU has been doing pretty poorly lately with long time periods between entries for many characters, and without that hype, it makes people less than excited to go and see it. Personally, I'm more excited to see Ms. Marvel again after the series than I am to see Carol Danvers. I also think the impact of some of the shows and the weight of consuming the content is also hurting the project. Secret Invasion was, well, just bad, and I think because this feels like an extension of that, many people have been initially turned off at the project. I also think the weight of all these other projects is starting to catch up. If you're a Captain Marvel fan, you haven't seen her since Endgame. Well, minus a post-credit scene. But a lot has changed, and in order to understand what's going on with this film, you need to have not only seen Captain Marvel and the final two Avengers entries of the Thanos era, but you also need to have seen WandaVision to understand what's happening with Monica Rambeau, and also Ms. Marvel, meaning about 15 episodes of television need to be consumed just to start this movie. This is something Kevin Feige kind of promised wouldn't happen, and although we'll have to wait and see how the film introduces these characters, it seems like those properties are a prerequisite, and if you haven't watched them, you're not excited to see these characters again. Iman Vellani is absolutely infectious and great on screen, but if you didn't get to know her in Ms. Marvel, you probably don't care. I also think all the Hollywood strikes is hurting the promotion process because the stars aren't out there promoting the films on all the various platforms and shows, and this has also led to a lack of talk on social media, meaning people just simply aren't discussing it, and that also encourages people not to buy those pre-sale tickets. I also think these pre-sale numbers are also encouraging people to wait. Why would you rush out and buy a ticket for a movie that's clearly not going to be sold out, and give yourself the maximum amount of flexibility on when you want to see it? Now, if I think the film is good and the trailers look great, it actually progresses the MCU storyline, which is something several films haven't done in a while, and these cameos are the really big payoff we're hearing about, the movie could totally recover. But Marvel could have a problem here, and if this movie flops, I would not be surprised to see some major changes to the Captain Marvel franchise overall. But how that works out, we're going to have to wait and see.